If you're looking for some advanced ideas around using ChatGPT for teaching languages, then this is the video for you. What I'm trying to do in this video is not do the typical kind of create a text and then create some comprehension questions and then create a gap fill for me and then do a true and false for me. I've done another video on those types of subjects, and if you want to watch that video, then please click on the link on the screen now. It's a pretty useful video and it really gives you a good idea what ChatGPT can do. What we try to do in this video is to think about more creative ideas. One of the things that we've discovered is that ChatGPT doesn't always do a very good job of actually creating grammar lessons, grammar explanations, and even grammar exercises, and indeed it will make occasionally mistakes. Where it's really powerful is when you get it to produce stories and dialogues and text. Now, one of the things that ChatGPT will do, which is very interesting, is it will in fact produce two texts, and you can even tell it, well, I want text 1 and text 2 to be slightly different in various ways, or I want text 2 to be slightly more difficult than text 1, or to have slightly different information. And this opens up a whole raft of opportunities around getting student A to read one text, student B to read the other text, and then connect together, tell their text, talk about what they've read, share ideas and find the differences, the similarities, or discover information. For example, you could have an eyewitness situation of an accident, student A and student B, what did they see, etc. This really does open up a lot of opportunities for creativity. It also is incredibly quick because ChatGPT will do all the work if you give it the correct instructions. You can also do some really interesting things around scaffolding the level of exercises, which in my experience has been very interesting. Now you can see actually ChatGPT in the background producing a text for me at the moment about Benjamin Franklin. And you can see how effective it is at doing this. Also, if you want to actually sign up and practice working with ChatGPT, at the end of this video, you will see the last part in this video. I do show you how to actually create an account yourself and to go on to OpenAI to create an account. So I really hope you like this video. I'd love you to like it. If you do like it, I'd love you to share it with other teachers. I'd really like to see your comments. And if you've got any other ideas, please share them with us. We are trialing lots of ideas with students. And of course, join me on my YouTube channel. Let's get started. You can use the menu system to jump to any part of the video. So here are the two stories. Now, I didn't give it a lot of instructions, and I think if I was to do this again, I'd give it much more instructions about what I wanted it to write. I just said, can you write two short stories about the life of a boy born in London, but have 5 differences in the two stories? I want my students to read the two stories and then to find the differences in the two stories. Can you list the differences in the two stories? I need the story to be about 500 words long. Now, actually, the story, I don't think it was 500 words long. It seemed to be a bit shorter. I didn't give it enough parameters. I should have given it more details about the boy in London, what I wanted the story to be about. That would have been much better. And of course, it would have also helped to have practiced certain vocabulary. But interestingly, I gave this story to one student, this story to the other. Okay, so I just literally shared a different story to each one. And then actually told me the 5 differences in the story. So that way, my students told the story after reading it, of course. So in terms of language learning, lots was going on. They read the story. They then, kind of took some notes so that they were ready to tell the story. They then both had to tell their stories, and then they both had to discuss the 5 differences. So lots of language was generated. And for me, of course, it was really easy to do this. Now, one thing, as I said, if I did this again, what I would do is add some more parameters. So let's do an example around this idea. So what I've done in this example then here, it says, I've said, can you write 2 stories about 2 environmentally conscious people who do different things to help the planet and to avoid polluting? I want the 2 stories to be very similar, but I want there to be 5 differences in the 2 stories so that my students can compare the differences and discuss them. Let's see how well it does this. In fact, what I will is, can you write the stories at level B2 in English. Okay, so let's see how the technology gets on with this. It seems to be very happy with my question, and it seems to be off writing the story. It was a good idea to mention the level, and it's even telling me what the 5 differences are. This is something I really suggest that you try with your students if you get to access ChatGPT, and I will give you a video at the end that will help you to do that. Okay, so we got here they've got the differences laid out to me, and we've got the 2 pieces of text. Incidentally, if you ever want to copy anything, I always copy from the bottom. It's very easy, and you just sort of kind of go up to wherever you want to copy from, okay? And then just paste that into a Word document. So what I was thinking, and I think this is going to work really well, I haven't tried this, is that we could have 2 eyewitness reports of an imaginary car crash that happened in London. Witness A and Witness B report almost the same thing, but there are 3 major differences in their stories. Can you tell me what the major differences are? So again, this is a fairly short story. I could obviously ask it to write a more detailed story, but I could give this to the student A and this to student B. They could learn their stories, so they could read and take some notes. Then they could come together, share their stories, and then try to identify what the 3 differences are. Again, this is a really quick way of getting my students to speak and obviously read at the same time. So they read their eyewitness reports, they come together, they share their ideas. And of course, you could easily do this with a group of students, so you could have group A, group B. Group A could read their report and perhaps practice amongst themselves. Group B could do the same and then join the students together. The powerful thing is just how quickly the content can be produced. Just a super quick break from the video. Hope you're enjoying what you're seeing, and if you are, please come over to teachertrainingvideos.com. Loads of free videos on the website. There's a menu system here at the top, but also loads of content on the opening page, and at the bottom of the page there's also my blog. If you really want to follow my work, the best thing to do is to sign up to the newsletter. You'll get updated with all the latest blog posts, the latest videos, the latest online courses, and the free webinars that I often run. And I will be running a couple about using ChatGPT over the next few months. And also at the moment, if you sign up, there is a free 14-part video course in how to use technology in your teaching and learning. It's completely free. There are no tricks. I just send you one video every 4 or 5 days. Okay, let's get back to the video. Some of the work I've been doing in Polish has been really interesting because I've been the student and actually get my teacher to work with this material with me. One of the things that I really liked doing, that I felt really helped me as a learner, and I think would certainly work the same in another language, is that we got ChatGPT to produce 2 similar stories. So not actually any different, basically the same parameters, but simply just produce 2 stories. Now the reason for that is that we worked through the first one, reading it, checking the grammar, analysing it, and then it was so interesting to see how much easier it was for me to read the story a second time. Now it also wasn't boring because it was a completely different language, but about the same story. And so I kind of like this idea. And what we also did is that the second story is slightly more difficult than the first one. So this was an idea that I'm definitely going to carry on working with. This idea that if we perhaps read a story and get to understand it and understand the base language in it, it's then quite easy to then move up to a slightly different level. Now my level in Polish is somewhere between A2 and B1. So an A2 story is going to be okay for me. A B1 story is going to be quite challenging. But if I read the A2 story first and then jump up to the B1 story, then I'm going to find the B1 story a lot easier to read because I've already worked through the A2 story. And this certainly seems to be happening. And this has got me really thinking about how we can use ChatGPT to produce varying texts at varying levels and basically scaffold our students to a higher level. So as I've said before, the key thing is instructions that you give to the system. So what I've done is I asked it to write a story and then to write the same story. Obviously the language will be completely different because it never repeats the story exactly the same. It will reinvent another story, but the same kind of story about this young man who wants to be a footballer, and in the end he doesn't become a professional footballer, but he tries very hard. And then we got again the story again, and the story the second time is slightly more difficult in terms of the linguistic level. So just by reading the first story and then obviously getting familiar with the language and familiar with the story, it was then much easier to read, or to read the story a second time. And so what I liked is that I wasn't repeating the same story. I was reading the same story, as in the ending was exactly the same, and basically what happened to the boy was the same, but the whole way that the story is described is completely different, and that obviously meant learning more vocabulary, etc. So what you could do is say, write me a story, blah, 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 at level A2 of 500 words, and then possibly write the same story at level B1. You might just say 600 words, so also slightly longer, and use the first story to get the students kind of familiar with the story and the vocabulary, and then once they've done that, then get them to move on and read the story a second time, obviously slightly more challenging. So this is really interesting for me because I think I get the feeling, and we've done a few experiments now, that it's really helping me to push on my level. Now incidentally, another little trick that you can do is if you're working on your own, you can always grab the text, copy it, and then perhaps jump into Google Translate. In fact, I think if I jump over to Google Translate, you'll see that I've already done this today. Okay. And then just paste the story in. And then, of course, the other thing that you can do is then actually listen to that story being read out. Okay, one of the curious things that we've discovered is that you can obviously get ChatGPT to produce a dialogue for you around any topic, and the more information you provide, the better it will do that. But you can also get it to organize the content, say for example in an interview, so that the questions are on one side and the answers on the other, meaning it's very easy then to print that out, chop it up, cut it up, and then share it out with the students who would then need to order the questions and the answers. But in fact, it will even do a matching activity for you and produce the questions and the answers, and then get the students to match them together. So I'm going to show you a few things that I've done with dialogues, and then I'm even going to show you how I realized I could then throw some of those activities into Wordwall, which is a really nice technology to use if you want to do activities online, and the compatibility between the two things. So we're going to look at some of the things that I did with dialogues now. This certainly is only the beginning. I think there's going to be a lot more that I'm going to be practicing and producing in the future. Now, this first idea is perhaps not the most creative one that I came up with, but I kept trying to do different things with the original idea, and they all worked to my surprise. And so I want you to see this because I think it's really going to open up your eyes. I started by asking the system, ChatGPT, simply to produce me an interview about Boris Johnson. Obviously, I could have chose another person. I simply chose him because I knew he was well known and it would be someone that I'd be able to check if the information was true or not. So we get an interview with Boris Johnson, which could be useful in the classroom straight away. I could have turned that into a gap fill activity or a comprehension activity or anything like that. However, look what I did afterwards. I then thought to myself, well, actually, what would be interesting would be to have that interview as in a format where I've got the question on the left and the answer on the right hand side. I thought, well, if I had that, for example, I could copy it up and then cut it up, and then the students would have to match the question with the answer. So for example, if I was to, copy this into a Word document, then print it out, cut it up, and then the students could do that. That would be one idea. But in a minute, I'm going to show you more that I did. But then I thought, well, actually, isn't it possible, for example, to copy these questions? And I'm just going to take, say, the first 5 or 6 just to show you what I mean. So let's say I just copy these questions here, okay? Copy them. And then couldn't I go over to Wordwall, which is probably my favorite tool for kind of doing language formative language kind of exercises, and create activity, and then go to the match up activity, and can't I just paste in those words, questions and the answers? So I've got the question on the left and the answer on the right, and then if I click on done, and then this becomes a matching activity that students would have to do. Remember, if you want to share a Wordwall activity with your students, you just click on set assignment and then just click on start and then share that link, and the students can do it. But let me just show you the activity. So if I was just to quickly play this activity now, you'll notice I can go full screen, that I've got these answers here on the on the right hand side, and I've got to drag in the correct question onto the right hand side. So for example, what do you like doing in your free time? It must be that one there. Okay, and then what is your favourite football team? That will be, I imagine, something about, I think it's West Ham's his favourite football team, so drag there. And then once you finish, you would submit the answers. Okay, I've got those two wrong, obviously I didn't do the rest of them. Now actually, quite a few of the activities I've been playing around with today included me coming back and trying out some ideas in Wordwall. And so if you want to learn more about Wordwall, I will put a link on the screen now to a video that takes you through everything that Wordwall can do. And I will show you a couple more ideas later on in this video working with Wordwall. But if we come back again, I just want to point out something else that I did afterwards. That I thought, well, that's great, and that worked really well in Wordwall. But then I thought, well, wouldn't it be really good if I could actually just ask it to put the questions and then put the answers, but create it as a mix and match activity, so that the students have to then, so I could now print this out. So again, I would copy, and just in case you don't know how to copy, always start, I know you know how to copy, but in this particular case you need to copy from the bottom and go upwards. It just seems a lot easier. Okay, you could copy those questions and answers, paste that into Word, print that out, and then the students would have to read the first question and work out which one was the right answer. Now, incidentally, what made me laugh as well is that the answers were provided for me, so I even know what question goes with what answer. So the first one actually went, number one went with the first one, but then afterwards number two went with D, number three went with G, etc. Really good all around one kind of idea of doing an interview, and I was thinking of loads of different ways that I could use that for a language lesson. Worked on lots of ideas around kind of facts, and I'm going to show you a few that I did. The first one was a little bit boring, but then I am going to suggest to you ways of improving this, and in fact we've even tested some of these ideas out already. So again, to emphasize, these are just test ideas. This wasn't particularly exciting because I just used facts about London. I think what I would have done now is do, say, facts about a famous person, or facts about a country, perhaps facts that other people wouldn't really know anyway, so that they would have learned obviously a lot of new things, because a lot of this information presumably my students knew. Obviously, it still worked. They communicated to each other. The other idea that I would have is, instead of doing this just as a list, I would actually do it in a text. So let me just look at what instructions I gave to the computer was, or to ChatGPT, was write 2 lists of facts about London. Each list should have 5 facts, and each list should contain 2 facts that are the same. Okay, so I think in this one, the River Thames was one of them. I can't remember what the other one was now, but there were 2 facts that were similar. Oh yeah, the populations of the country. But I mean, if we would say, if I'd have chosen, say, 5 facts about London transport, or 5 facts about the underground system in London, I think it would have been a lot better. But also, I think it would be better to do this as a text. So let me give you an example of the sorts of thing I'm thinking now. So as an example of what I mean, and so keep in mind I haven't done this, I did it as a list, is I've given the instructions, write 2 factual texts about the life of Benjamin Franklin. Each text should contain a total of 6 facts, and 2 of the facts should be the same in both texts. The text should be for level B2 students. Let's see how the system gets on. So again, what I'm hoping here, and again it hasn't worked actually because it's not written it as a text, it's written it as numbers. So we need to be a bit clearer with the instructions here, because we want it as one piece of text, not a list. So let me see if I can do that again, and hopefully it might work but you get the idea how important it is to be so clear about the information that you pass to the system. So I'm re-instructing it. Can you do the same, but not as numbered lists? Can you write the facts in the form of a text in both cases? Should I better put a question mark in? I keep forgetting all the time to put in a question mark. Obviously, it doesn't need one, but I should really be putting them in. So press enter, and let's see if it produces it as a text rather than yes, it is. So this is, I think this would work better than the way I tried out the idea. Again, what I like about this is that the students are going to learn something new from each other, but they're also going to kind of, there will be some information that they both have. And I think that's really, really important when you're sharing content and discussing things. And it'll be interesting to see. One interesting activity to do at the end of this is to do a comprehension that you could then give to both students and say, right, answer the following questions. So did they learn from each other? So in fact, we could ask it now to produce the comprehension questions to go with both texts. Last thing I want to point out, this is kind of simple, it was just something that I've been doing quite a lot, is just how useful ChatGPT can be for grouping content that you then put into WordWall. WordWall allows you to create some nice grouping activities, and sometimes I find it hard to make the groups, to think of the language for the groups, or simply because it takes time. This is a super time-saving device, great for kind of vocabulary building, particularly say before you read a text, just grouping words into different kind of genres, etc. So I thought I'd just throw this in just simply because we've done some work around it and it does seem really useful. Now I thought I'd show you this final idea just to show you a little point of something that I've actually been doing this in Polish, but I've just quickly made this example in English. ChatGPT, like many things I'm discovering, formatting things, making lists, creating questions, all sorts of things. One of the things it will do is group things. So I asked it here to create groups of words around environment, cooking, politics and economics. And it creates the groups really, really quickly. I asked for 6 words. I could have asked for more, but watch this. I'm just going to copy. I'll just do this for the first couple. So I'm just going to copy those words and I'm going to jump over to WordWall. Now in WordWall we have something called grouping, and as I said, I haven't done this in English, but I'm going to show you now how I could do it. I could paste all those words in just one go, and then obviously I need to give the group a name, and so this group would be called environment. I'll just do that again so you watch this in action. Okay, so there it is. Look, I've just created my first group. I'll do another one. So what I'm going to do is jump back to the words that we've created, and I've got these words all around cooking. I'm just going to grab these ones then, same thing, copy all the words around cooking. There's only 6 of them, but I'm just going to grab them all. In fact, it's always easier when you do the select to select from the bottom up. It's going to kind of come down here, otherwise you end up, that's it, just do it like that. Bottom up, copy the words, come back, and we'll do again. So I'm going to paste this one here, put that in, and this, I'm going to call this one cooking, and we'll do one more. Okay, and so if we come back again and we scroll down a little bit more, I did some words around politics, copy, and again come back to WordWall. So we're going to click on add new group. So we add a new group. What I love is, of course, that I don't have to write the words. I can just click, and then I'm going to put here, and this one's going to be politics. Now, incidentally as well, just might as well point it out that now WordWall actually allows for audio. So if I click here, I can actually generate the audio for the words as well, and then just put that in. So I could go through and do that if I wanted to. You have to generate the word first. I won't do any more. You just see that you get the idea. So I won't do any more, but you would need to generate all the audio. If we clicked on done, and now we was to start that game, and you've got a lovely a game, even some with the audio on it now, and then you would actually drop those words into the correct area. Now, I haven't actually done this in English. I've been doing it in Polish, good practice for me to extend my vocabulary. But I just thought I'd just show you that idea. And again, how easy that is facilitated by the use of ChatGPT. So to sign up, the first thing that you'll need to do is to come over to openai.com. And then you'll need to click here, okay, on try. And it's going to open up. And the first thing you're going to need to do is to actually create an OpenAI account. Now you may notice that when you go to do this, you may notice that sometimes it says that it's at full capacity. There are so many people using OpenAI or signing up to use ChatGPT that sometimes you can't even get to this page. But when you get here, you want to click on sign up. Now the first thing you're going to need to do is to create an account. Now I'm going to create an account using my Google. So I'm going to click on continue with Google, and then I select my Google account that I want to use. And then from there, I can log in to my account. Now you need to provide a little bit of information. So just add in the information. You then need to put in a telephone number so that it can verify. Now a little while ago the system actually required an email address and it was then going to contact you via email, but these days it's asking for a telephone number and then you need to send the code. The code will be sent to you and then you need to add the code in. So put in your telephone number and then click on send code. A code will be sent to your telephone number and you will need to enter that code. Mine's just come up on my telephone. Once you've entered this code, you'll come onto this page. Just click on a few things that you need to read about. Keep in mind that there's massive demand at the moment for the system and you may find that you can't use it all the time. I'm ready now, and if I was to go to the bottom of the page there and start to write, I could actually put in my first question. So then writing your first question, I've written, can you write me a 2,000 word essay on the life of Rosa Parks? Click on the button and hopefully it's going to start writing for me, and of course then I could ask for comprehension questions, etc. You might want to name your chat, so I'm going to click here and I'm going to call this one Rosa Parks. This is my first, and that way I know that all the stuff that I'm going to do in this particular chat is going to be about Rosa Parks. And off it goes, and you can see that it's writing away, and now it's just a question of you asking it to do more activities. Now one thing is, remember that at the moment the system is having a lot of problems, too much demand. You may find sometimes that it doesn't work, or that you need to ask it, can you finish or can you continue, because it stops halfway through, etc. Okay, really hope you found that video useful. Please come over to teachertrainingvideos.com. Loads more free videos. You've got a whole menu system there at the top of different content, but of course you can scroll down and see some of the latest and most popular videos. You can also access my blog at the bottom of the page. At the top there's also information about all my courses, and if you sign up to the newsletter, as I said, as well as getting updated on all the blog posts, the online courses, the latest videos and the free webinars that we often run, there's also a 14-part video course in using technology in teaching and learning, and I send you a video every 4 or 5 days. There's no tricks. You don't suddenly need to start paying for that. It really is free. And if you want to contact me about doing any training for you, please, you can contact me from the website. And finally, I will leave some more videos on the screen now about other technologies that you might find interesting connected to teaching and learning.